Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another special edition of the Cheats Movement podcast. I'm so excited. We've had really good guests over the last couple of weeks and months, and this is no different. Joining me today, I'm really excited to talk to Jason Mead, aka Hat Crawler on all your social media. If you know anything about me, you know I'm a huge hat fan. Never mind. I'm going to take that back because I thought I was a hat fan until I met or saw people like Jason and their team at Views from the Vault and everything that they do. And I realized that I had to step my game up. So, Jason, welcome to the Cheats Movement. So excited to have you.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure being on here. I hope I don't bring your level of guests down too much, but every show has a dip every now and then.
No, not at all. I'm going to tell you what you've done more than anything else is one, you provide a public service that I don't think most people people ask me all the time, hey, where do you get your hats? But I don't have any type of public service that you have. Tell me about Hat Crawler, because I really do think it's a public service. It's changing my life. So being able to actually see amazing hats being released and hats that I wouldn't even have thought of, and not only being able to see them, but being able to link directly to know where they're coming from, purchase them. Even if I miss out on a drop, I'm able to get familiar with the new shop. How did all of this come about? Tell us a little bit about Hat Crawler as a social media platform and when and how did it take off?
So it was probably about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I started, I've always worn hats, but I really started collecting hats. One of my coworkers dared me to grow my hair out. And my hair, I got to the point where, it was too short to style and too long to do anything with. So I started wearing hats and I realized, man, I can't wear the same hat every single day. So I was traveling a lot for work too. So I would go to a stadium in the city I was traveling to, go pick up a hat. And I soon realized that wasn't enough. So then I started looking online for places that were selling hats. I found a ton, and I found a ton of awesome styles. And nobody was really promoting these, right? Especially a lot of the smaller shops, they didn't have a social media presence at all. So I just started posting them to IG. Whenever I found a new hat, I'd post it to IG, and people seemed to gravitate towards it. And so I wrote a program that does it for me, and it's just blown up since then.
So no, this is a good point. So because just when we were talking offline, you said you just got back from vacation, and I was like, "How do you go to vacation? That crawler never stops." And so explain that part to me, because I'm assuming now, like you said, it's an algorithm that kind of knows when releases, or are you in contact with these stores? How do you get the information that? How do you get the information that works out?
I follow their social media accounts a lot to know when drops are happening. And then a lot of times I just, constantly hit the site, looking for new hats. And then my program emails me with all the details, and I post it to IG. So it's actually pretty streamlined at this point. So that's why it's not too difficult for me to keep up, even when I am on vacation. I was posting some hats by the pool on Sunday. Had to be careful not to drop my phone, but So just spending a lot of time on social media, following the sites. A lot of them, some reach out, say, hey, can we get on Hat Crawler?
When was that? When was the first time that happened? Because that's got to be a cool feeling when you're just doing something, and then out of nowhere somebody's like, hey, look, we love what you're doing. Can you post our hats on your site?
Oh yeah, that was probably shortly after it started. I think it was Hat Heaven, because they had just launched a web presence. They had a store in the Bronx for years. They had finally just gone online, and I kind of discovered them, and then they reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to have our stuff on there. Could you post it for us? I'm like, holy crap, somebody's actually paying attention. So that's when I knew I had something is when that first story reached out. I was like, hey,
Now,
so
talk to me about like the last year, like pandemic hat year,
oh man,
because it feels. I'll tell you what it feels like.
mhm,
I started like most. I could be wrong, but like a lot of hat collectors, I started in the sneaker game. Right, I was in the sneaker
sure, yeah,
game when I probably missed like the really really cool parts of the sneaker game. Which what I
mhm,
think about it as a bit of a purist, I'm thinking the cool part of the sneaker game is like, oh, I'm in Virginia, I'm going to travel to New York, Baltimore, Philly, go to mom and pop shop, ask for the counter guy,
right,
go behind the desk, pull this thing out that I've never
yep,
seen before. So I was a little bit at the tail end of that, but
mhm,
really in the explosion of like, you can really find cool stuff online.
yep,
And now I've actually pretty much out of the sneaker. I'm not out of it. I like sneakers, but it's like every site has the same sneakers. It's whoever has the most money, and like they're gonna release like as little as possible to do
yep,
this thing. And that turned last during especially during the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic stuff, really turned me off. And that's when I really started paying attention to the hat world, which
mhm,
reminds me of kind of early sneaker culture in some ways.
yep,
Even today, it's gone. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's gone at an accelerated pace. So, like, the hat game today is starting to remind me a little bit of where, like, the sneaker game is gone already. And I'm
for
like,
sure,
I don't know if there's a timeline in regards to, like, when it's just kind of the same. But tell me
right.
about this last year and what you've seen in kind of hat culture and, like, what direction do you think it's going?
I mean, it's just exploded in the last year. If you look at like say Hat Club, at the beginning of last year, they had maybe 20,000 Instagram followers.
Mhm.
Right now, they have like 400,000. It's just absolutely exploded. And you're right, it is starting to feel like the sneaker game, from what I've been told. I'm not
Mhm.
much into sneakers. I'm too
Mhm.
old to bend over and tie my shoes. So uh, so but yeah, we're starting to see bots. We're starting to see cook groups. We're starting to see all sorts of stuff just for hats.
Mhm.
So there's some stores that it's nearly impossible to manually buy a hat off.
Mhm.
But the key difference between the hat world and the sneaker world is there isn't a limited supply of hats. It's
I've heard this
theoretically,
before, but explain it to
theoretically,
me
yeah,
because
yeah,
but no, because I have. I heard like sneaker run is a sneaker run and it's done. But
yep,
like every
hmm,
individual store usually has is it like an account manager that can
yep.
order that explain to me how that works. I think the
Uh,
audience in particular would like to know.
Yeah. So I know just a little bit about the inner workings of New Era, right? Because I don't have an account with them, so I don't have a rep or anything. But yeah, basically there's reps that work with the stores to submit orders, and New Era will essentially provide any hat to any store if they're willing to order it.
Mhm.
As opposed to like the sneaker world where Nike,
Yeah.
purposely limits the production just to build hype
Yep.
and uh, demand. Um, the only limits in the hat world is the ability of the store to buy as many hats as they possibly can, right?
Mhm.
So that's one of the key differences between the two. Is yeah, there's still limited runs of hats, and that's more just a facility of resources for the hat stores themselves. Like how much money do they have? How much time do they have to ship out these orders? How much shipping capacity do they actually have? But that being said, any number of stores could sell the exact same hat, and we have access to all of those. So, but yeah, it is getting a lot like the sneaker world. Hopefully, it doesn't get all the way there where you can't get a hat ever.
Right.
But yeah,
Well, two
it's
things that I hear is a little bit of an adjustment on what kind of previously happened. And one of those I want to talk to you about because I think you have a new release coming is I've heard like the pin game. So not just the hat game,
mhm,
but the pins on the hats
yeah,
is really like if you get a certain hat and you don't have the pin, now it's like, oh well, you don't have the hat crawler pin that came with the hat on the release. So
Right.
and I know you're in the pin game or getting in the pin game. Is that another element? Talk to me a little bit about, like, is that something that's also taken off with the hats?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it has a lot of to do with the ability to even not get the hats, whereas pins are a lot more accessible. So you know, it really started a lot in New York City. Those kids would be waiting outside, you know, NoHo and some of those other stores for drops, and they'd be trading pins. You know, kind of, but going back, you know, like to baseball cards and Pokemon and Pogs and all that stuff. But they just brought it to the hat world too. So they'd be trading some pins, making pins. And so, yeah, I released a couple of pins a few weeks ago, and the response was crazy. And I sold out in like days. I was expecting to have a pile of them still sitting here. So yeah, so I got a few more in the works. They'll be here in a couple weeks, and I'll put them up on my site. But yeah, the pin game's taken off. A lot of other accessories have taken off. I know Manolo Prado. He's in Atlanta. He's a clothing designer. He's done they're like T clips for like golf course. You know, like when you're golfing, you put a T clip. He made some custom ones of those for like hat clips. Yeah, just the accessories have taken off as well. A lot like the sneaker game too, right? So
talk to me a little bit about your YouTube show that you're a part of, Views from the Vault, which, again, all of these things. So pandemic, hat interest, hats, pins, your social media, other social medias, and then Views from the Vault comes about. And all of this has led to possibly more arguments with my wife than ever before, because now I'm ordering all of this stuff and she's just like, you only have one head, what's going on?
Right.
But I love it. I love Views from the Vault. I can actually sense when it started, and it started, and then you came on a couple episodes in per se, but I can easily see this is something me and my friends would be like, we have no idea if this is going to work.
Right.
And it turns out to be like a really awesome kind of growth, and I call it a phenomenon, but we'll see. Talk to me about the show, and then I have a couple questions about just like the show in itself. But how did you get linked up with Pierre and Leon and those guys, and now you're a regular on, like, I guess the only hat show exclusive. Like, there's others, but Views from the Vault is like as a really good one. How'd that come about?
Well, yeah, it started like almost exactly a year and a week ago. And it was Pierre and Leon just wanting to do something. They had been, you know, cooped up in their houses for about a month because of the pandemic. And so they just decided to, hey, we'll just start a live show on our hat group, Fitted Hat Society on Facebook. And they just, you know, let's get together and talk hats. And they did a few episodes, and then they asked me to come on just to interview me, you know, a lot like what we're doing right here. And I came on, and they're like, okay, that's cool. We interviewed, and it went really well. And then they decided they wanted to do a weekly hat review, like what were all the hats that came out this week. And so they reached out to me because, you know, of Hat Crawler, to see if I could, you know, help put together some slides or some visuals to go through every hat that came out. And from there, they asked me to join the team, and we've been doing that week in review every week since. So I think we're on like something like episode 52 of that. And yeah, it's just grown. I mean, we started doing 2 live shows a week, and then
the work output is outrageous. It's outrageous.
And then people were asking, you know, maybe we could do some shorter content more often, because they didn't, you know, a lot of people couldn't devote 2 nights, you know, multiple hour shows. And so we've got rid of that Wednesday live show, and we've been doing like, you know, small 20-30 minute episodes like twice a day. Yeah, for everything from like hat maintenance. We do a
Yeah.
lot of stuff with the clink room. We do previews of drops, just all sorts of crazy stuff. And then we always have done our weekly live show Saturday night at 9 p.m. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Now,
Yeah,
did you know those guys prior to you being interviewed by them?
I had been following Leon on
Hmm.
social media for a while, and then Pierre, not really. I hadn't really talked to him at all.
Hmm.
Um, just basically through those first few episodes that they did from Views from the Vault, and yeah, it's
Well,
just been
the chemistry on the show is really good. Like I
yeah
think
we
everybody kind of plays their role, and it's pretty good. And it seems, I mean, obviously you've done so many shows for like a year
mm,
now, but it's
mhm.
really funny when you guys try to figure out like you're gonna guess like, oh, I know which one Jason's gonna hate, or I know which one like you're gonna
Yeah,
pick up. So
yeah we
it's really cool.
it's for basically very different personalities.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it works out so well. We all have our different tastes in hats, and those tastes obviously have evolved over the year. Um, but like up till 6 months ago, there's no way you catch me in a side patch hat. But now, shoot, half my collection has side patches on it.
You seem to be a little bit more of the hat purist of the group there in some
Yeah,
ways, and I enjoy that.
yeah. So my background too is I started collecting a lot of minor league teams.
Hmm.
I like just the diversity of logos and colors and everything like that. And so those are a little simpler, a little more of the classic look most of the time. And so that's what I gravitate to most of the time. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many options for everybody out there. Like I always say, there's a hat for every head. So yeah, that's yeah. So there's tons of options if you like the colorways, the side patches, the clean logos, like some of these up here. Yeah, just so many places releasing hats and so many different styles. It's awesome. It's a great time to be a fitted collector for sure.
Now, have you got into? I know you got into the pin game. Have you got into the customs game as well? Because it seems like a little bit of a different animal when you're
Hmm.
making custom hats, and I think it's a almost an acquired taste or a unique taste because somebody that is obviously even really into hats may not be into hats where it's like, oh, I've never seen that hat before and I don't
Right.
fully understand like what the logo is. So, have you dabbled in customs? How's that worked out?
Oh yeah, I got quite a few custom hats. In fact, that's one of the reasons I joined some of the Facebook groups. Is because that was the only way to get some custom design hats. Um, but now with the Clink Room 2.0 coming back, we've seen the explosion of those. And Pierre has a line of hats called Good Hats that he does with John from Ink Park. They're all custom hats. Leon has the Capologist, which is another custom hat store. So yeah, custom hats are awesome. They always get talked about whenever I wear them out. Like, hey, where's that logo from, or whatever. I always have to explain that it's a custom artist making a hat and stuff like that. So yeah, custom hats. I've collected quite a few of those in my day. That's for
And
sure.
is there? And you said, I think we teased. There's a hat crawler hat coming, or have there been several, or what iteration are
No,
we on with hat crawler?
we are on iteration. Well, we'll call it the beta release, if you will.
Okay, nice.
Uh, I'm doing a seed release, and then I'll have a more general pre-order in a couple of months when the hats finally arrive.
Now, for
And
someone that is so so familiar now with hats, and you've seen all types of hats, when you create your own, is there like a baseline that you start with? Like, is there fundamental things that like this hat has to be this? What are some like without giving it away? What are some of
right,
the
right.
core
You know,
values of a custom hat crawler hat?
so I just started basically with what color I wanted to use, and then just built the hat from there. Right. Obviously, I already had the logo, so that was easy. And then I just decided what colors I wanted it to use, um, and pick the eyelets and the buttons and the under and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So this first iteration, I'm going very classic, very stick to my roots. Red hat, white front panels. I love I love the front panels. I know they're
Mhm.
not everybody's flavor, but and then gray under. Very
Very nice.
classic looking, baseball hat. So, but yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about is you see a lot of these stores coming out with all these custom colorways and everything like that, and people think it's so easy to do, right? You're just picking colors.
Mhm.
We've actually done a couple of collaborations. The Views from the Vault team has done a couple of collaborations. I know Pierre's done a ton. It is much more difficult than it actually looks, because you got to think that every logo, every side patch has up to 6 or 7 colors or spots that colors are available. New Era has 300 some different thread colors, 200 different fabric colors. So throwing together a hat design is not easy at all. I've done like 3 of them so far. None of them have released yet, but the first one took like 4 hours. It's just like picking, figuring out first what logos do you want to use, what side patches do you want to use. It's not an easy process, and I give props to some of these stores that just do it absolutely remarkably, especially like My Fitted's Hat Club.
Yeah, phenomenal.
My Fitted's is crazy with their color picking, just absolutely crazy, and the storytelling that they put into each hat. It's not just some 5-minute pick, paint by number. There's a lot of work that goes into it for sure.
Well, there's 2 phenomenons I do want to ask you about, and because one is because I don't understand one of them.
Okay.
Only because of geography. So I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
We don't have a hat club in Richmond, Virginia. So we had a ton of lids. We have like as a store, but when I started kind of following closely and started to hear hat club, and to an extent where like there's a brand loyalty there. There's some individuals that are like, if it's not hat club, I'm not buying it. Right. And again, somebody that I think follows this stuff fairly closely, I didn't fully understand that Hat Club was just like a store, right?
It's just a chain. Yeah.
So I was like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen with Hat Club and why have they, like, if in your opinion, how have they kind of become almost like the Nike or the Yeezy? They're like Nike, Yeezy, all these things for hats rolled into one. And it's like, how did this happen?
So I'm not fully sure. I'll speculate. But they were the originators of the pink bottom, right? They were the first ones that mass released, well, not mass released, but made available to the public the pink undervisor.
Right.
And I think from that they just grew, drew a cult following. Like like I was saying before, kids would line up outside that NoHo store of theirs, starting at like 11 p.m. the night before. So they would always release their exclusives in store on Saturday. They would line up, Friday night, camp out all night just to get a piece of that, opportunity to buy a hat, buy a pink bottom. And I think it's just the cult following. The social media accounts from all those people have just grown immensely, because frankly nobody had anything to do. They weren't going out to eat. They're not going out to the clubs. They're not going to sporting events or concerts or anything like that. Right. So the only thing they had to do was buy hats, and so it's just grown from there. And I totally get brand loyalty, store loyalty. If that's your thing, absolutely go for it. But I tend to buy from wherever I see a hat I like. I'll buy it. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much just the whole hat industry has grown in the last year, and a lot of that does have to do with Hat Club and just the innovations that they brought with the pink bottom and the icy blue bottoms and all these different color collections and crazy things like that. It's definitely helped explode it for sure.
It's insane. My theory also is that like we were saying, geography matters, right? So that NoHo store, Hat Club store in New York, is really kind of. It seemed to me, and I could be wrong because I don't know the other hat club stores all over the country, but it seemed like they were like doing these innovative things out of that out of the store, and really kind of adopted, like I said, some of that sneaker culture in the NoHo store, and it turned into like, it turned into a bigger thing.
Yep, and that has a lot to do with Justin, JFM GMT on Instagram, being the manager of the store at the time. So he was a manager of the store and a designer for the company. I think he's since moved on. I don't know. He might just be a designer now, but so it basically just, a lot of it started there. And so the demand grew out of there, and then they finally released some of these on their website, and it's just absolutely blown up.
So I'm interested the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I'm interested about it because some of the social media stuff you've already mentioned, especially the Fitted Hat Society on Facebook group and all that, I follow closely. Those particular groups are New Era 5950 groups. And it seems as if kind of the default stock hat, if you will, that is covered on a lot of these platforms are New Era 5950s. Talk to me. I understand that that's also like they've got the license for MLB. Those are the game worn hats. Minor League Baseball as well. New Era is got it locked. They've done an amazing job. But do you entertain other hats like Ebbets Field flannel or just other companies that are making hats or other styles?
Personally, no. Okay. I wear 5950s. That's just really the style I like. I like the structured 6-panel hat. If Ebbets Field flannels would make a structured 6-panel hat, I would definitely be interested in those. Baseballism. They do a lot of cool designs.
They do some cool stuff. Man, they do.
Yeah, I just haven't pulled the trigger on any of those yet. But it's just a personal preference for me personally. Some people are like 5950 or die, or they hate them. I know a lot of people like my age don't like wearing them because they do have kind of a boxy look to them. And
well, the low profiles change that, right?
Yeah, the low profiles change that. But me, I like wearing my hats really low. And so I don't like the low profiles at all.
Okay.
They don't fit low enough for me. I like to cover my head. So I get jokes all the time. Hey, you don't have any eyebrows? It's just how I wear my hats. Always worn my hats this way.
That's hilarious.
So
that's interesting. Is interesting because I started hunting for a lot of Negro League stuff. So it was like Negro League hats. And at the time I started hunting for them, it was a little bit prior to the 100th centennial last year.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a little bit more difficult,
Yeah.
So I would look for, I discovered a couple other companies. The idea was I wanted to try to stay as true to on field as possible, which I've learned is extremely difficult.
Yeah, Ebbets would be your probably best bet on those.
It's American Needle, Ebbets.
American Needle, yeah.
Yeah, American Needle is, I think, because they have the contract wise, they have the contract in like the 30s, 40s. They had like MLB contracts back then. It was kind of all teams could pick. It wasn't like the league made the deal. Like different teams could pick, and so I think there was actually a lawsuit behind that in the long term when they made the deal league wide and say like this is your hat supplier.
Right.
I think they actually sued to say like individual teams should be able to choose, but they didn't win.
Right. And that was fairly recently in the history of Major League Baseball, right? I think
in the history of Major League Baseball, absolutely.
It was like 1993, I think, is when you were finally secured the rights to the entire league. So
it's crazy. So before I get you out of here, Jason, this has been a pleasure. And
thank you.
No, this has been fun. And so you do a thing on social media where it's like, I think you do it by the week. It's like your top 9 like releases.
Yeah.
So we're going to expand that because this is hopefully the first time that some of the people that will be listening will be familiar with you. So, and all of your stuff. So talk to me about say your top five. I'm a big hip hop guy. So all the things we do on this, we do on the site is so the classic hip hop debate. Who's in your top five?
Okay.
Flip it to hats if we can. Okay. I don't know if you can. Do you have a top five? This is going to be in my top five of hats. My greatest MCs of all time. That's why it's hard, Jason. That's why it's hard. If you're talking about Biggie, Tupac, whoever, Rakim, whoever's in your top five MCs, it's always a fight. So do you have a top five hats?
Oh, man, that's a tough question. Number one is always the hat on my head, right?
Okay.
No matter what I'm wearing, that's going to be my favorite hat at the moment.
Okay.
But I'm trying. Yeah, I got a stack of hats over here. I'm looking at. Recently, one of my favorite hats, and it's the one that got me to actually buy my first side patch, is Manolo. I mentioned him before. Did a collaboration with Hat Club, and he did a Milwaukee Braves 1957 World Series side patch in black with a peach bottom.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the peach bottom UV.
Does the under visor matter to you?
It does, to a certain extent. To me, it has to make sense with the rest of the hat. If you take it like an on-field hat and just slap any color underneath, that doesn't make sense. But the story he had behind that hat in particular, it being an M logo, my last name, Braves being my favorite team. That was a winner for sure. There was a peach blossom hat by my Fitteds. Was an all peach hat, Braves, with a floral under.
Okay.
I'm not a huge floral guy, but the colors of the flowers in the under visor match perfectly with the logo and the side patch. So that's another one of my all-time favorites. And then there's one that I actually don't have, and I hope somebody will release it.
What?
Yeah.
How does this happen?
Yeah. So I'm from Western Iowa. And so growing up, really the only entertainment options we had, being underage, was going to a Sioux City Explorers baseball game. They're an independent team. Yeah. Used to be in the Northern League. Now it's like the American Independent League or something like that. But yeah, their X hat. They had a logo that's just an X.
Okay.
And they used to have a New Era. I know I had one in high school, but it's got beat up and destroyed and everything like that. So if I could get my hands on one of those again, that would definitely make my top five. And then, man, I don't know.
All right. I don't want to stress you. I love it. Look, I'm surprised though. I'm glad you went with CC because I know you're a minor league guy as well. So it's I have a collector friend of mine in town here who started a mission, and I mean obviously bandwidth is an issue, but he was going to pick every major league team and buy a hat from every class in the so every class so it's if he's the Atlanta Braves, he's got to go single A, Eastern League, double A, triple A, and he was going to buy at least one hat from each for this collection. And I mean, it's an amazing feat. I think he's got a couple divisions done, but he's been doing it for years. And it's he also tries to go to the game. So
yeah, his job just got a lot easier, unfortunately, because of the minor league baseball realignment, where they dropped a bunch of teams.
Yeah, so we have a double A. We have an Eastern League affiliate here in Richmond, and there was a lot. So in the Richmond's Flying Squirrels. I don't know if you have any Flying Squirrels hats.
I do. I picked up their faux back last year.
Oh, I got that. I got that the other day.
I love that hat. Yep.
Yeah, they're all red with the state on it and the R. It's a really good one. And so the interesting thing there, they're affiliated with the San Francisco Giants and have been for the last decade.
Mhm.
And with the realignment, I know that team over there was really like now, and I think they're the only East Coast team, Double A team that has a West Coast
Oh,
major league
okay.
affiliate because of all the
Yeah.
realignment that
Yep.
took place. So we stayed with the Giants, but it's a kind of the realignment was a big shift, and I know it caused
Yeah.
a lot of stress.
Yeah.
But I know
I mean,
they're oh, go ahead.
even just for hat collectors, right? Because I mean, we lost 50 some hats.
That's amazing.
I
That's
know, I know,
insane.
I know. It's a selfish way to look at it, but I'm
No,
glad.
it's fine. It's important.
I'm glad they were actually able to find homes for most of those teams. I
Yep.
think there was only maybe a handful of teams that completely shut down. So
Yeah.
that's good at least. Yeah.
Well, Jason, this has been an absolute pleasure, and I am a huge fan of what you do. Again,
Mhm.
on the show, Views from the Vault, what you do on your social media as well, and more than anything else, like I said, it's one thing to be a hat collector, and there's a lot of hat collectors online.
Yeah.
A lot of those hat collectors don't tell you where they get their stuff and what
Oh, sure.
stores they get to. And
Yeah.
Hat Crawler is amazing because it's not only is it a great repository, but it's also, like I said, a public service. It shares the information.
Mhm.
And again, I would say at least 8 stores that I had no clue about.
Yeah.
Even if I missed the drop, like because I can
Right.
check next time. I can
Right.
go and be like, oh, now I know what grandstand in Chicago is, and it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's amazing. Do you? Last thing I'll ask is, do you have a favorite store?
Oh, no. I have this
I
would have
feel
been
I
this would
feel
have been a
bad
lot.
putting you on the spot.
No, this would have been a better top 5. My
Okay,
favorite hat stores.
okay. Well, you can run them
I,
down if you like.
yeah, obviously Hat Club. Just not only for their awesome design colorways, but for their retro minor league stuff. They
Sure.
have the design collective stuff, which is more in that custom logo.
Mhm.
And they drop daily almost. So that's a great place. My Fitteds, just the absolute John Jay and his team there do a fantastic job of putting together
Is
custom colorways.
is there a secret to my fitteds? Because I've never even when I am right on Hot Crawler and it pops up, they're already sold out. So it's like, is there
Yeah.
something about my fitted? Is there what's the secret? You tell me how I can get a hat off my fitteds, and I'll let you know.
The secret is good luck. They're a really small shop, so their quantities are kind of limited,
Sure.
but their designs are impeccable. Hat Heaven,
Yep.
great store for the classic looking, gray bottom, nothing too flashy. They bring back a lot of retro minor league logos, a lot of retro major league logos,
Mhm.
just clean looking hats. Toppers from Austria.
Really good.
Really great
Really good.
stuff.
Yeah.
Pat's I've talked to Pat quite a bit. He fastest shipping in the game. I just placed
Really.
an order yesterday. It's going to be here Thursday. I can't even get hats from domestic places that fast.
That's insane.
And then number 5, I know I'm missing somebody here. We'll throw Lids in there for being the
Sure.
where everybody started.
Are you down on Lids? A lot of people are down on Lids. Why are they down on Lids? I don't understand. I just don't get it.
A lot of it has to do with the business and having they sold lids.com to Fanatics
Yep.
about a
Yep.
year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago. The other thing is, a lot of the stores are pretty bare bones. Like my local store here, basically carries Major League Baseball on fields, and that's about
That's
it.
Yeah.
But they're starting to really step up their game. They have an in-house design team now. They're starting to drop their own custom collections. Really good stuff coming out from them.
So they did. I have the New York Cubans had on with the
Yeah,
100 league anniversary, and I think that was a Lids exclusive at the
it
time.
probably was. Yep.
The problem is, I'm hunting Peck as much as anyone else.
Right.
And I've only seen outside of pictures. I've seen pictures of other hats. I've
Right.
only been able to buy like 5, right?
Right.
But
Yep.
I know in pictures. So I always wondered if it's like, is it me or is it them? And I'm starting to think that it was like they just didn't like. Granted, pandemic, no
Right.
minor league baseball, no 100th
Right.
anniversary in that sense. But I'm starting to think they just didn't release a ton of these hats.
It did. And if they did, they only put, select teams and select
Yeah,
stores.
like I only saw a handful.
They did a recent run of like 8 different color undervisor hats, right? Not a single store in my entire state got any of those.
Okay.
So if I didn't order them online, but yeah, they're finally starting to get things figured out. And you got to remember too, they're hundreds times bigger than any of these other stores.
Right.
So just the amount of hats they have to move and distribute and stuff like that, and actually collect in their warehouse, it's insane. So they move a little slower than the little guys, but they're coming back for sure.
Jason, I'm going to let you go. This has been phenomenal.
It's been a great time, man.
Tell folks really quick last time where they can
Mhm.
follow you, where they can follow the show, everything that you're doing, and what to look out for in the future.
Okay, yeah. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all Hat Crawler, at Hat Crawler. I post as many hats as I can find that aren't sold out already. So that's getting a little bit harder to do. And then on YouTube, Views from the Vault. Our signature show is Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. We reviewed the entire week in hats, and we usually have special guests. Like last week, we had T-Mark on. A couple weeks ago, we had J-Tips on. It's just a lot of fun. It's just, 4 dudes talking hats, what they like, what they don't like. And we got new content coming out daily. So make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on. Yeah.
You will get a lot of notifications.
You get a lot of
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
no, this has been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Cheats Movement. Until next time, I'm so excited to be able to have these conversations with special guests like Jason, but with all of you. So until next time, we see it.